Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Boisterous coming to you with some Masters League Magnificence out of the map Belshire Vestige. Spying up here in the top left-hand corner, we do have O Gaming's representative dJonnyRecco as the pink Zerg player. And down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent from Clarity Gaming. It's going to be Bales as our red Zerg. And this is, of course, a game from the round of 8 of the URTL Season 2. You guys should definitely be checking it out. The semifinals are coming up this weekend, both Friday and Saturday. I think Friday it's at 9 p.m. EST, Saturday it's at 8 p.m. EST. And it's going to be great. You know, you guys should definitely check it out. It's going to be the semifinals, and then the finals are going to happen the week after that, Saturday at 8 p.m. EST. I'm going to be commentating them. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. And you know, I'm excited. I'm excited to see this entire thing come to a close and see who gets to take home the prize of the URTL, because honestly, I mean, the season's just been incredible so far, being able to watch all of it go down. Now, of course, you guys can check out all of the future broadcasts and all of the past broadcasts over at twitch.tv/urgaming, and really, they're awesome people over there. You know, gotta love it. Gotta love it. There's a lot of really high level players that have been coming out of the URTL. dJonnyRecco has actually been one of them. I mean, I've seen this guy play a lot lately, because I've been doing actually a lot of the O Gaming casts in the last couple weeks. And honestly, dJonnyRecco is one of their bigger players. Like, he's one of the players that comes out whenever they're in a really big issue, or either that or he's their starter. I mean, he's just a really solid player when it comes to all three matchups. It's going to be interesting to see how he decides to play a PvZ on Belshire Vestige. Of course, I would not be expecting to see a 15 hatch come down here. However, it looks like he's going to be gearing up for something like that, which is a little bit interesting considering how, you know, Protoss players are becoming extremely centric on blocking the hatchery. And dJonnyRecco is going, okay, yeah, no, he is getting a spawning pool. That was going to worry me a little bit if he was actually going just solidly for the hatchery. It looks like this drone on the low ground is actually going to manage to drop the hatchery at 17, which is really not a bad timing for dJonnyRecco. That's fairly nice. You really want to get that down as fast as possible, and dJonnyRecco managing to get it down at about the 3-minute mark that's pretty solid. Usually Protoss players like to delay it for a lot longer than that. It looks like we are going to have Bales building up a Forge Fast Expand of his own. Not too much of a surprise considering the map. You know, a lot of players have recently started going for more of the Gateway Expand builds just because Zerg players are becoming notorious, are just becoming notorious for not actually putting on any early game pressure. You very rarely see roach busts anymore, but you know, going for that Forge Fast Expand really just stops anything like that right in its tracks. It's extremely hard to go for any sort of early pressure as a Zerg player against a Protoss player whenever you see that Forge Fast Expand, because suddenly it's like, I don't know how many cans he's gonna have up. He could have 2, he could have 3, he could have 4. It's gonna be hard for me to scout that without losing an Overlord, and it just adds a whole nother level of complexity. It looks like we are going to have dJonnyRecco going for the economy side of it, which isn't too much of a surprise. dJonnyRecco is, of course, a player that really likes his macro games. In the past, I mean, I've had conversations with both Fear Dragon and Vindicare about this, and like, this guy, he just loves to play for the late game. If you let dJonnyRecco just sit there and play for the late game, he's going to pull out a grenade and he's going to throw it into your husk, and you're just going to go away. It's going to be pretty nasty. And yeah, that was a Starship Troopers reference, man. Right up there with pulp culture with like 15-year-old movies. Yeah. Alright, anyway, we are going to see a lot of drones pumping out from dJonnyRecco. Not too much of a surprise. It does not look like he does have gas yet. So he is not going to be going for any sort of tech anytime soon. He's basically just going to be using these Zerglings as his primary scouting units. And, you know, if he ever sees a scary amount of pressure coming, he might finally drop that gas. But he's not going to get it unless, like, he sees proof that something bad is happening. You know, seeing this Forge cycling is pretty nasty. I mean, like, the +1 attack can be very strong, but you can wait a long time to actually start preparing for that. And really, spine crawlers, 2 or 3 spine crawlers on both your natural and your third base should be enough to fend that off. The speed at Zerglings definitely helps, along with maybe roaches if you happen to get that tech out. But it really doesn't matter too much. It looks like we are going to finally have these extractors coming down. It's going to just be 2 extractors in the natural. So we will be getting this gas down. It's a fairly late gas, but it's not like overly greedy. It's really just, you know, get as many drones out as possible before you know that the aggression from the Protoss player is coming. It looks like he will be falling back to his base. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a couple of extra Zerglings coming out here, because we are going to have a small amount of pressure coming out here. But 6 Zerglings, 6 to 8 Zerglings should be plenty to fend this off. And it looks like we are going to have the Zealot moving in here, being a little bit awkward. It's going to be running on over to that third base. It will be able to scout this out, and seeing that third base is going to put Bales in like an okay position, because he's like, all right, it's not going to be anything super aggressive. I can really do a timing attack with my +1, and JonnyRecco is going to have to react to it. And, you know, you really got to get Zerg players that really love their macro play like JonnyRecco to react to pressure builds like this. And we are going to have a lot of Zerglings popping out here. It looks like the Zealot will follow, but the Stalker will get out relatively unscathed. I mean, a little bit of shield damage, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, it'll heal up very fast. But if we look at the production tab from JonnyRecco, he's just been pumping constant drones this game. He's up to 52 drones already, and he's not going to stop droning until he hits like 70. Like, he's going to have these preparations out to not die. But other than that, he's just going to be continuously droning. Because so far he knows that there isn't an Immortal out yet. Immortals are now finally starting to pump out, but you know, the pressure isn't going to be amazingly scary. We do have the layer on the way along with another 10 Zerglings, so he is going to be playing a little bit careful. But, you know, he's not going to go crazy with the Zerglings. Like, he's not going to just make 70 Zerglings and go for an all-in. It's going to just be like these Zerglings to get out on the map, scout out a little bit, check, you know, are you coming with an attack? Yes. Okay, I'm going to build some roaches. I'm going to build a lot more Zerglings, and I'm just going to be spot on with my larva injects like he has been so far. And that's really all he needs to do to be able to fend off an attack of this magnitude from Bales, because it's not going to be too big. It's going to be a 2, maybe 3 Immortal push with some sentries. It does not look like there's going to be Zealots accompanying this yet, but, you know, those could come in at basically any time. We do have +2 attack coming in, so it actually might be a +2/+1 blink attack play. He does have the Twilight Council, but I think this is actually... This Twilight Council might actually just be here purely for the +2. It does look like we have JonnyRecco actually pumping out a ton of roaches. This is a little bit of a surprise. I would have expected him to go for another like 10-ish drones. However, you know, he just wants to go for the aggression, and we will see a lot of Zerglings coming in here. A nice force field goes down, but oh man, that third force field was kind of unnecessary. It looks like this Immortal will be safe here. However, all of these Zerglings will be moving down, being able to do some decent damage to this Nexus. And will they be able to get the Nexus? I don't think so. There's way too many Protoss forces here for them to actually snipe that. But honestly, I mean, that harassment was worth it just because it forced out almost all of the force fields. There is 1 force field. There's about to be 2 force fields with this army. And 2 force fields is not going to be enough to be able to hold this off. You really need as many force fields as possible whenever you're facing off against a roach force, especially with Immortals. And it looks like we are going to have 1 Immortal getting sniped as soon as that battle starts. A second one looks like it might be going down. A beautiful time warp there goes down for Bales, and he might be able to keep that Immortal alive. No, it looks like these roaches will be able to stomp right over this army. A third Immortal goes down, and that is not a good situation for Bales. We're going to see this entire army get cleaned up by these roaches, and this was just a beautifully played bust from JonnyRecco. I think Bale should be able to hold on to it, but JonnyRecco is following this up with 8 Swarm Hosts, and 8 Swarm Hosts are going to be able to put a lot of pressure on our Protoss player. It looks like that third base will be falling, and JonnyRecco recognizes, you know, there's not going to be a whole lot more damage I can possibly do to you. I'm probably not going to be able to break into your natural, because that would take a ridiculous amount of luck and a ridiculous amount of you being bad, and, you know, when you're playing off against the Grandmaster's level player, you never really want to be in a situation where you're just assuming that your opponent's going to be bad, because chances are they aren't. So he will just snipe off all of the pylons down here by the third, you know, get Bales down below a certain level of supply and make it just annoying for him. And then he'll just be returning home, which is definitely the smart decision here. We do have a lot of Swarm Hosts coming out for JonnyRecco right now. Does he have Enduring Locusts? I didn't see it upgrade. No, he does not actually yet have Enduring Locusts, which is a little bit awkward. He is going for a Hive, though. Their Enduring Locust finally starts. This is a little bit of a late Enduring Locust upgrade. Typically, you want to get it like with your first batch of Swarm Hosts, just because Enduring Locust is so important. But I guess the way he timed it out was that, you know, he's going to get as many Swarm Hosts as possible. He's going to start pushing out across the map, and just because of the sheer size of Belshir Vestige, he knows that, you know, these Swarm Hosts will hit. Basically, they'll get 1 cycle of Locusts out, and then Enduring Locusts will be finished. And honestly, Bales isn't gonna have the army to actually fight straight up against Locusts. He's gonna have to just force field. That's really his only tool that he has, because there is no way he's gonna be able to take this fight with no Colossus and really no nothing. It looks like he is actually going to be swinging around the right side, which is a very ballsy maneuver, especially considering the fact that the Locusts were moving right for his natural, but he was like, yeah, okay, it's going to take a little bit more time. And we are actually going to have a complete counterattack by Bales? What? Alright, this is a little bit of a ridiculous plan, but it might just work out. We do have charge lots with +2, +1, and this is a weird strategy. It looks like he will be going right in for the attack here. He does have 3 immortals with this fight, and there are no swarm hosts. There isn't a Nidus network. There's really nothing for him to get back to base, and it looks like we might see these immortals be able to do a decent amount here. The zealots are going to be going right for those roaches. The roaches will, of course, be able to clean up the zealots fairly easily. However, there is a warp prism with this army. It looks like the swarm host will be here. And this was actually a really beautiful play from Bales, because there was no way he was going to be able to hold off at his third base with this army against swarm hosts. Like, there was literally no way. So he was like, okay, I'm just going to go for the throat. I'm going to try to take down as much tech as possible. But then at the same time, dJonnyRecco, with just some beautiful like city planning, was like, all right, I'm playing against a Protoss player. He can force field my ramp and completely screw me over. So I'm going to put all my tech in my natural, where I will always be able to get an army. It doesn't matter, unless my army is in my main base, which I'm not going to F up and do. You know, I'm always going to be able to have roaches or have swarm hosts in my natural, which is amazingly important. And now we have this entire Protoss force completely boxed in. And you know, we'll be able to hold out for quite a while, but that quite a while is going to fall down. It looks like we do actually have Dark Templar on the way. Oh my god, Dark Templar from Bales. They're going to be doing an absurd amount of damage to these swarm hosts. The swarm hosts are going to be forced to run. And wow, is there anything for detection? It looks like we do have an Overseer on the way right now. However, these Dark Templar are going to be able to do an amazing job. It looks like we are going to have the army breaking down the ramp yet again, and now the swarm hosts are actually being cut down to a point where our Red Protoss player, might just be able to fight it off. There are 3 immortals here, some nice force fields going down, but the locusts are going to be scissoring in here alongside the roaches, and those locusts are just going to be so dangerous. They're going to be coming in right here for the immortals. They're going for blood. It looks like the force field amounts just are not there. We have some nice micro coming out from Bales, trying to protect his immortals as much as possible, but I just don't think it's going to work out. He's going to be able to get 1 immortal out of here, but I'm really not sure if it's going to be worth it. He did manage to get a lot of damage done to the swarm host, but honestly, the army from dJonnyRecco is just so strong, and Bales being still trapped on 2 bases is in such an awkward situation, and his ace in the hole has kind of been forfeited. I mean, his ace in the hole was the Dark Templars, and the Dark Templars have now been seen, and without Colossus, it's going to be very hard to fight a resurgent swarm host army without being able to snipe them off. Now, of course, dJonnyRecco is down to 3 bases of his own, so, you know, Bales managed to do a reasonable amount of damage there, but he wasn't able to kill any real important buildings. I mean, the infestation pit almost bled out, but Bales really should have focused on killing off, like, especially that piece of tech. Like, that one piece of tech could have completely changed the form of this game. However, with the infestation pit still up, we are going to see a constant swarm host production coming out from dJonnyRecco for as long as he wants. We are going to have this army from dJonnyRecco moving out across the map. However, Bales does have a whole lot to fight against this, and it's really going to be about whether or not Bales can hold out against this army at this point. I mean, Bales has a pretty respectable army. There are only 4 swarm hosts here, so the locust numbers are not going to be amazingly impressive. We have a couple of really nice time warps going down, and that will slow down these locusts' ability to get to the front line, but it looks like the locust DPS is just going to be so freaking high with 2 more swarm hosts on the way. A couple of these swarm hosts will be going down, but I'm not sure if it even matters. Oh my god, it looks like Bales might just hold on right now, but honestly, I mean, until he can secure this 3rd base, it's going to be very, very hard for him to actually win this game. He does manage to keep his Archon alive, which is amazingly important. He really needs to save all of these high money units. There are a couple of changelings kind of just chilling out with the army of dJonnyRecco, or of Bales, and, you know, I'm hoping he notices these things, because, you know, there's zealots that don't obey his commands, but it looks like he's not going to do that yet. There we go, the changelings finally go down, so the scouting information from dJonnyRecco will no longer be there. It looks like dJonnyRecco is still going for a very, very solid roach force, which I'm not sure I agree with. I mean, he should really be switching into some other type of unit, especially considering the fact that Bales has basically just been mass-producing immortals at this point. I mean, he has the hive out. He has the potential to go for any sort of hive unit. He could go for broodlords. He could go for ultralisks. He could build infestors. Infestors would be amazingly nice against this army, because, you know, if you go infestors and swarm hosts, you can just lock down your opponent's force, and then the locusts just roll in, and it's game over. It looks like we are going to have +3 attack coming out for Bales at this point, along with quite a few more swarm hosts from dJonnyRecco. We are going to have a small attack force of roaches moving in here, but I don't think it's going to be able to do do too much. He is going to be going up to about 10 Swarm Hosts, and here we are going to have another small hit squad of roaches coming in here to the third base, just trying to be annoying as possible. I mean, dJonnyRecco kind of taking with the Terran idea of just harassment over and over again. And dJonnyRecco, with these Swarm Hosts at home, should be able to defend quite well, because Swarm Hosts on creep are going to be extremely powerful units in fighting almost any sort of army. He will be able to get this scouting information down onto the main army of Bales. He knows what he's up against, and he knows that he has a decent amount when it comes to fighting it. If we look at his Swarm Host count, it's pretty respectable. I mean, he's going to just be launching off as many locusts as possible, and he's going to unburrow all of his Swarm Hosts, move the hell back. It looks like one of these Swarm Hosts getting trapped a little bit by the locusts, but I don't think it's going to go down. It looks like we are going to have a very pivotal battle coming down this ramp right now, and I'm not sure if Bales has what it takes. It's going to be really all about these force fields, and we have some beautiful force fields going down onto the roaches of dJonnyRecco. However, so much of this army will be able to break through that force field wall, and so much of this army is going to be just walking right into the Protoss force. Man, this is so close. I mean, Bale, just with some beautiful micro, is going to be able to hold on to this force for quite a while, but the issue is that these locusts, he's not managing to snipe off these Swarm Hosts fast enough, and these locusts are just going to be overrunning his force. He does not have any more AoE to take down these locusts. He doesn't have Storm, he doesn't have Colossus, he doesn't have Archons, and it looks like these locusts will finally just be able to overcome his opponent, and Bales really has nothing right now. And he did not manage to get that ace in the hole Dark Templar attack that he had last time, where he managed to kill off so many of the Swarm Hosts. So dJonnyRecco has a respectable Swarm Host amount, and he's just going to be moving in on his opponent. It looks like Storm is just about to finish for Bales, but it's not going to be done in time to save his third base or his natural. It's whatever dJonnyRecco wants to go for right now is what he could kill. And we're going to have these roaches moving in to the natural at this point. They are going to be sniping off a warp gate. There really isn't a whole lot for Bales to try to defend this with. He does have, one Archon, but one Archon's going to get sniped off pretty fast, and it looks like these Archons will be going down very fast. The Immortal does fall, and that Immortal was really the big money unit he needed, and there just wasn't enough, and Bales is forced to call the GG, and dJonnyRecco takes the game for his team, and yeah, that was a really impressive game from dJonnyRecco. I mean, he stuck it out. There were a couple times where Bales was in a good situation, but dJonnyRecco, just with very solid macro play and very solid Swarm Host control, I mean, he managed to take it back. If he had had a little bit of earlier detection, he would have been in a much better situation, but even without that early detection, it helped. It was just enough. It was just enough to have Swarm Hosts and to have roaches, and to just be able to kill his opponent. So anyway, guys, if you want your games commentated, send them on into boisteroussc2@gmail.com. Also, if you'd like more Boisterous action, head on over to youtube.com/boisteroussc2. Be sure to check out the URTL over at twitch.tv/URgaming, and this is Boisterous, signing out.